Welcome to Digging with Doug. I'm Doug Oster from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Today it's all about spring edibles. We're going to talk about planting rhubarb. We're going to talk about planting asparagus. We're going to talk about planting some berries, some horseradish, shallots. But the number one thing we're going to do today is an experiment with potatoes. But let's start with the other stuff. These are rhubarb roots, and rhubarb is very easy to grow and it comes back year after year. Tricky thing about rhubarb, we're going to go over and see some in just a second, the leaves are poisonous, the stalks are all you eat once it comes up. And once you have rhubarb, you'll always have rhubarb, which is a great thing. Asparagus is another plant that comes back year after year. These roots are planted, and in 2 years we'll start harvesting asparagus. Horseradish is basically an invasive weed. It's planted now, then harvested in the fall, and no matter what you tear out of there, it's always going to be there. And I have a terrible time growing onions in the garden, so we're going to give shallots a try. I don't think I have enough sun for onions, but I'm hoping there's a spot right over here that we can do the shallots. And let's start with planting 10 shallots. They're kind of like onions, but have a little bit more subtle taste, so let's give that a shot. Alright, we got a nice little bed here. It's been fixed up with manure and now some compost, and I'm just going to lay my shallots in here. We do it like we plant any bulb, where we put the root end goes down. And pretty simple. I hope I have better luck with these than I do with onions, but we'll see. And I'm going to give them about 6 inches between each other. Now I've planted these in my staggered position. I got 1, 2, 3. Now in front, between these two, I'm going to put another. And we're only planting them down about 3 inches. We'll water those in, and now we'll head over and I want to show you a little bit of rhubarb. See what it looks like. This is what we want, the nice red and green stalks of rhubarb. This is the perfect time to pick them early in the season. And all you do is you go down to the bottom of the plant and just harvest this. I'm hoping my wife's going to make some strawberry rhubarb pie. Alright, at least this will help get that started. And then we just cut off the top. The great thing about rhubarb is it comes back every year. You can't kill it, but it can kill you. That's why you got to get rid of this leaf. It's just the stalk that we eat. And those are going to be great mixed with lots of sugar and lots of strawberries. Let's go over and plant a blackberry bush, and then it's time for our potato experiment. This is black satin blackberry. I've got some raspberries along the fence here, and I love blackberries, so I'm going to give it a shot. This corner here used to be a place for a little seat, but I moved those all up to the other corner, and I need some more area to plant. So we've worked up this soil with compost. Well, blackberries are really just a weed. So I'm hoping in this corner, not enough sun really for what it needs, but this is all I have. This is the only spot I have for it, so we'll give it a shot and see how it does. And hopefully we'll be picking blackberries this summer. Now it's on to the potato project. For our horseradish, rhubarb, and asparagus, they're all planted the same way. Improve the bed with compost, put them in, you'll have plants forever. Now, the potato project here, our big experiment. This is actually a composting bin. It's called the Geo bin. And I got the idea to plant my potatoes this way from a friend who had a little cage filled with good compost, but she had trouble keeping them wet. They kept drying out. I thought if I had a bigger area with more compost, this is actually 3/4 of a pickup truck full of compost. As I said, it took me a couple hours last night to get this thing filled up. I didn't think you needed to see that, but it was actually kind of funny because it rained, of course, for Digging with Doug all the time that I was filling this up. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut holes in the sides and put our seed potatoes in the sides and on top, and we'll see what happens. This will be a fun experiment. One of the fun things about gardening is experimenting, but the first thing we have to do is tell you that we start with certified seed potatoes. These are grown and certified so that there's no diseases in here. Alright, so let's cut them up. I've got a board behind me, and that's our next job. Alright, let's start cutting them up. And we are just going to cut them so that there's one eye in each piece. And that's what's going to be planted. And believe it or not, that little eye will become lots of potatoes. Now I really don't know if I have enough potatoes, but we'll find out, and after we get them all cut up. I've got some white potatoes, purple potatoes, all sorts of different types, and I'm just going to mix them together, and I'll show you when I plant them how we plan on harvesting them. That looks good. I'm kind of concerned about the placement of the compost here. We're in a little bit of a slope, and so I think the soil is all going to stay in place. Hopefully it will. If it doesn't, we'll have potatoes all over on top of our garlic here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up some holes in here so that we can put those seed potatoes that we cut up in there for planting. And I did one test hole, and they're pretty easy to cut, and we're just going to do a couple here and there, and we'll be ready to go. The nice thing about this is when all these potatoes are done, I'm just going to lift this whole thing and the potatoes will just fall out, and we'll have lots of compost left over for the garden. Okay, I'm going to cut the other side too, but right now let's see how long these potatoes hold up, and we're going to start planting them. And eyes go out. It's going to work. Well, there you have it, the great potato experiment. We'll see what happens. I hope this dirt stays in place and doesn't roll over. I think it's moved already, but we'll see. Next week we have a special surprise for you, something completely different. It's a spring garden tour. I think you'll enjoy it. And don't forget, if you've got a garden question for me, log on to www.post-gazette.com/homes and click on the gardening forum button, and I'd love to help you out with your gardening problem. Until then, I'm going to cut some holes on the outside and plant some more potatoes. We'll see you next week.
Can we break it down now, Doug?
Yeah, we're done.
It's starting to rain.